But with regard to the Station nightclub fire, I mean, obviously, that is one of the most tragic losses in Rhode Island's history, and it's extremely painful for many people in this state, and understandably so. With regard to the actual deal in the Station nightclub fire, as some of you know and others may not, after I left the Air Force as a captain and a JAG, as a native Rhode Islander, I came back to the state and I became a prosecutor in the Attorney General's office under Patrick Lynch. I was not at all part of the Station nightclub fire. In fact, I was about as far away from what occurred in that in terms of the office and how it was handled. I was at the time stationed in Washington County, where I was a prosecutor for about a year and a half during my tenure of over 5 years at the AG's office. But I will explain to you how a process goes about in terms of a deal being reached, and that is simply this. The Attorney General's office and the defense attorneys get together, after the charges are determined, and then they negotiate essentially a potential plea deal. Sometimes the court intervenes and actually takes it out of the hands of the Attorney General's office. Now, there was an indictment process that went through. There was a deal cut. There are individuals within that office that were involved in that case that are not happy with the end result and didn't feel it was appropriate, and some of those prosecutors were left out to hang in the wind while Patrick moved on from it. So it is an issue. I can guarantee you that as Attorney General, I will have the courage and the independence to go after whoever is responsible for the commission of a crime, whether or not that person is of the same party or a different party, whether or not it's politically popular or not, and whether or not that person is working for a city or a town. The people of Rhode Island have the right to justice. Victims have the right to justice, but and that is what I will stand for, what I have stood for as a prosecutor, and as what I will stand for as Attorney General. E-Verify is all well and good, but what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're backing up our federal law enforcement. For too long, right now, essentially Providence is a sanctuary city. I don't think that that's a good idea. We have to make sure that our law enforcement, that Rhode Island law enforcement, both state and local, our state law enforcement is already doing it, but our local law enforcement, including, most importantly, our capital city, needs to be cooperating with the federal authorities when they come across individuals who are here illegally. We have enough issues to deal with in terms of crime. The individuals that are either arrested or the police that come in contact with them or who are here illegally should be sharing that information with the federal authorities. I don't understand why we don't share that information in terms of Providence. I think it's obvious in terms of the leadership that's there. The bottom line is that my experience as both a prosecutor in the Air Force as well as at the state level is that we work with the federal authorities, whether it's the FBI, the Secret Service, or DEA, and there should be no reason why we're not working with the ICE officials and enforcing our immigration laws. It's a serious issue. I think every elected official has as their primary responsibility to insert themselves in trying to improve the economic situation in Rhode Island, including the Attorney General. It's not the first thing you think of the Attorney General doing, but it is, in my opinion, a critical role. And how would I act to improve the economic development in the state of Rhode Island? First of all, I think doing away with public corruption would make a significant difference. When you start thinking about what companies face, and Rich mentioned some of this, you have a company, you have a business out there in Minnesota, and the Rhode Island's going out to pitch, bringing a new business here, and they say to the guy, hey, why don't you move to Rhode Island? Well, hey, how are the taxes? Oh, they're the highest in the country, you know. But we have a great bay, right? Okay, how's the education system? Well, we pay a ton for it, and we get very little out of it in terms of good results. Well, that sounds attractive, but we have a nice bay. And, well, what happens if I come there? You know, am I going to be able to compete evenly? Is it going to be an even field of competition for me if I bring my company there? Well, do you know anybody in power? Do you know any inside politicians, inside political people? No. Well, you better bring a bunch of money with you to buy a friend. So doing an end to the public corruption and getting rid of the reputation that Rhode Island has around the country will go a long way towards economic development and improving the situation in this state. I also intend to have a business advisory council to the Attorney General so that small businesses, it would be a rotating council, so that small businesses have a way to get to the ear of the Attorney General and communicate what's affecting affecting them that the Attorney General can make a change in. I think it's critical that the Attorney General oppose any unnecessary and unwarranted and unsupportable public utility increase, whether that's electric rates or gas rates. The quickest way to kill manufacturing is to have high electric rates, and it hurts individual Rhode Islanders in their own pocket as they're trying to keep their household afloat. So I intend to be strong on business and strong on economic development as your Attorney General. On the issue of the health care reform bill, I can tell you this, I'm not going to be afraid to stand up to the federal government when it impacts Rhode Island in a negative way. As an attorney, you know, I'm watching the health care bill, and we don't actually have a bill passed. We don't know what the law is actually going to be, but we do know it's not looking good. I'm going to hope that we don't have to deal with it, but if in fact they pass the health care bill, and if it looks anything like where it does now, where they're passing on to the state a bill for $200 million plus, I will look at that class action suit that the attorney generals of other states are bringing, and I certainly would be willing to sign on to it. You know, currently our Attorney General signs on to just about every class action suit that's made Rhode Island look bad with the business community, but there are times when it's appropriate, and that's one that I'll join in on. I also won't be afraid to oppose the federal government if they try another one with the fishing industry, like the one that just got passed with the $7 tax. That's an affront to the Rhode Islanders who shouldn't have to pay a dime to cast their line into the waters and to make a living or to enjoy it recreationally. That could have been challenged in a number of ways. Other attorney general's offices are looking at that. I certainly would have looked at it if I had been the attorney general. We don't need that kind of intervention by the federal government. I'll stand up for Rhode Islanders and their rights against the federal government.